And you've just heard Grow Michelle by Speak Easy Circus. And I'm joined now by Jack Avison from the band. Hello, Jack.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So what can you tell us about Grow Michelle and the inspiration behind it? Because it's an interesting song.
Yeah, so Gros Michel is actually a type of banana. It was the original banana that sort of became really popular in Europe and like in the United States. It was the first banana that was sort of exported. And it's the banana that like my gran, for example, still has memories of like seeing a banana for the very first time. And it was like a very exotic, sort of exciting fruit. And basically, I don't know if you've heard the rumor about how like the banana flavoring is all based on like an old type of banana. That is the Gros Michel banana. So it does not exist anymore.
Right.
It is not able to be exported widely because of basically because of like a disease that sort of infected the banana trees. And that's largely due to the way that it's been like cultivated and the way that it was like farmed and exported and everything like that. So I kind of got in a bit of a just like a deep dive, like rabbit hole situation where I was like watching documentaries about bananas and finding out all about like the new types of bananas and like the sort of farming practices and all the people that are like involved in it at all the different stages. And I was always just kind of like struck by how kind of like we think of this just like a piece of fruit basically, but it's like there's this whole sort of slightly dark like undercurrent to it in terms of like how it's processed and like it's very sort of exploitative, and the sort of banana companies, particularly Chiquita, which used to be the United Fruit Company during the early 1900s, was like kind of an evil, well, not kind of an evil sort of corporation, especially in like South America and Central America. And yeah, I had this idea for the song, like for the first riff, and it just started coming to me, and I was like, oh, this is actually a really like I think this would be a slightly unique thing, or like a unique topic to write a song about. And from then it just kind of it came fairly easily from that.
I think it's definitely a unique topic. I've done a lot of these interviews and I've never had an answer like that. But so did you research with an idea that you were going to write a song about it, or did the song come from just your interest and your deep dive, as you say?
Yeah, so initially I didn't know I was going to write a song about it. But then once I knew that I was going to write a song about it, I then sort of researched more and looked more into it. And there was definitely points where like, because also you want the song to be it can't just be like a list of facts. Like you have to, it also has to be in like a song format. So like you want bits that are like a little catchy, you want some wordplay, you want it to have a little bit of a story, like sort of like a narrative running through it. And that narrative for me was like basically at the start of the song, the banana is presented as this like brand new thing, like, oh, it's like really exciting, and then slowly you start like dropping in like these little bits, but like as the narrator you're kind of almost willfully like ignoring it, because like we sort of, to a degree, not just with bananas but with lots of other things, like we know that stuff happens in other parts of the world to give us our iPhones and our bananas and all this kind of stuff, but we kind of have a little bit of a willful ignorance to it. So the sort of structure of the song was to add in these little bits. And so obviously as I was then doing that, I was looking for more information and looking for more bits, and then the end of the song, actually, you can hear in the background is a quote from Pablo Neruda poet. He's a poet from South America, and about like the banana corporations, and like, so the idea is that it starts from this like point of sort of not knowing a lot about it and kind of being like a little innocent about like the idea of the banana. It's great, and then like as you come through the song, you have more and more information. So that's definitely the sort of the structure that I wanted to take with it as well.
And is this going to be a standalone single, or is this kind of a precursor to? I mean, I'm kind of serious. It sounds like you've done so much, you could almost have a concept album. Yeah. But no, but is there going to be more music coming out after it, or is it going to be standalone for now?
So at the moment, in terms of like fruit-based music, it's going to be it's the only fruit-based music. But I think I don't. It wasn't even like it was going to be a stand. I think I really enjoyed watching. There's like some like Netflix documentaries called like Rotten and stuff. It's all about like where food comes from, all that kind of stuff. So it was around about that time as well. I don't. There's lots of songs that you could write about stuff like that. I might do some more in the future, but at the moment, the other songs that we have written and recorded and are sort of going to be coming out next year aren't like fruit based or food based. Although maybe that would have been an idea. Maybe we should have called it like the Fruit Bowl EP or something, and it all could have just been fruit related songs.
It's interesting talking to you because I hadn't really thought about it, but the way that fruit, when it first was brought over to the UK, for some reason I'm thinking of pineapples, and it was seen as almost like this incredible thing to own a pineapple and real status symbol, and now they're rotting in people's fruit bowls. Bananas are growing brown on people's banana trees if they have such a thing. And it just becomes another thing that we buy and we consume or we let go.
And not even just that, because like there's sort of we almost have like an expectation that like we should be able to get all fruits and all foods like at all times of the year, and it is like that's a relatively recent thing. Like I think even like my parents' generation probably wouldn't have had this thing of like, you should be able to, like, an expectation that you should go to the shop and you should be able to get like strawberries, pineapples, like in the dead of winter. Like that wouldn't really have been a thing. And so I think it also like does tap into that idea that like maybe we should go more back to like, it's not very sustainable to constantly be shipping like fruits all over the world all the time. Well, I say all over the world, to Europe and to the Western world primarily. And so maybe it is just something to like think a little bit more about in terms of like, is it a good thing to have like to expect to have everything available all the time in terms of like fruit and produce? And is it just better to, because also the fruit is better in the summer. Like, I don't know if you've ever bought strawberries in December, like they're normally a disappointment. The best ones are if you buy them in season.
Yeah. I used to work in catering for a long time. But so I really do understand this, because when I started, you would get the asparagus season. And that was, and that was a short period of time in the summer, and that we get. And of course, now you get it. And you just see the quality. It is actually a really interesting thing, the way that the food business works and the way that we sell all our shellfish overseas, and then we bring all our roasted peppers or red peppers from Holland, I think it was the main producer. Yeah. I didn't think when I was going to talk to you that we'd be talking in depth about politics of food.
Exactly.
So can you give us some background into Speak Easy Circus, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. So Speak Easy Circus had originally started, it was around about 2000, well, it was probably about 2018 when I moved to Glasgow after finishing at university, and I had always wanted to basically be in a band and to find a band, but I basically didn't know any musicians in Glasgow at all. So I started out just making stuff like in my bedroom and recording stuff, and that's the first 4 songs that we released, or like the first EP that we released, which was in about 2019, was basically just me doing stuff in my room with like a couple of people here and there. John, who plays saxophone, he played on it, played the drums and stuff. But I was just trying to get it off the ground, really. And around about that time, I started playing in different bands, like other people's bands in Glasgow. And that's when I sort of started to meet a couple more musicians. And eventually we got to a point where like that other band had kind of stopped. And I was like, oh, well, guys, like I've got this project. They'd been sort of helping me out with like the odd shows here and there. And I was like, oh, how do you guys feel about like coming on like full time and like making this like more of a band project? And luckily they said yes. So that was around about 2019, and then we got about 3 months of that, and then COVID happened. So the timing was wonderful, but no, it's been good overall.
I was wondering about that because I saw that you'd formed in 2019, so I was thinking, well, a lot of your time as a band has been during lockdown and COVID period. And did you keep making music in that time? Did you keep kind of in touch? Were you still a band in terms of that during that time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that actually kind of helped us to stay sane a little bit, like during that time, because we actually decided to start like a video project thing that we called Quarantunes, which was basically just like little collaborations that we were doing as like video projects as well, and we put them up on YouTube, and like we ended up doing 7 in total, and each of them were started with like a different concept, and we were trying to use it as a bit of an experimentation as well, of like trying out different video styles. We did one with like I got these sort of fluffy rabbit things in a chocolate Easter egg. And then we did like a stop motion thing just with my phone, just like taking loads of photos, and like made this little adventure thing like just around the flat. So we're trying to like use the limitations in a way to be creative, which can actually sometimes be really beneficial when you're sort of told you have to stay within these limits, and then you've just got to find ways to do stuff within those limits, and suddenly you're really like thinking outside the box and doing different things. So that was a lot of fun. And then we also did have some music come out that I think there was like a 2-week period in September of 2020 where you could move around the country. And we were lucky enough that happened to fall exactly in when we were going to do some recording. And then that meant that in 2021, we could still be releasing music and stuff like that. So definitely we still like stayed very in touch. I actually live with John, who plays saxophone in the band. So we were able to sort of work on stuff together, and then we would send sort of files across to different members of the band, and they would add stuff on and then send it back. I feel like quite a lot of musicians around about that time got pretty good at even if they hadn't used like sort of digital audio workspaces and stuff beforehand, like most people pretty quickly realized that they were going to need to get like a little interface, like some cables, like even if it's just like a free software, just to do, you know, bass tracks and then send it back to us, or to do little bits and pieces. I think most musicians kind of quite quickly got on board with that and realized that was going to be the way to keep doing stuff, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people adapted pretty quickly if they wanted to keep music and sharing music as well. But the band does sound like they would be one to see live. So have you managed to play live yet? Have you?
Yeah. So we've been playing live. We did last year, actually, we did a tour around the north of Scotland. And we were raising money for Bernardo's Children's Charity, and the point of it was to try and go to places that we wouldn't normally go to play live. So we played 12 shows in 10 shows in 12 days. Went all the way around the north of Scotland. Went to places like Durness, Thurso, like Skybridge, Forest, like all these sort of places where as a band from Glasgow, we probably wouldn't have thought to sort of go out to these faraway places. And then we also actually did a workshop in Inverness for the kids that go to or like that were helped by that Bernardo Centre. So we got like some instruments, and we're able to do these little workshops with them and teach them bits and pieces. And so that was really good. I mean, that was actually kind of born from feeling a frustration at the lack of gigs that we had, and like obviously we had spent a long time not being able to travel and not being able to go and play shows and all this kind of stuff. And so we really wanted to do something that was like a little out of the ordinary, a little out of our comfort zone. And you know, it's a shame that up until that point, like I hadn't been to those parts of Scotland, and they are absolutely beautiful. And so we kind of wanted to highlight that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think there's increasingly people are realizing that there are venues in that area that they can go to and visit.
Exactly.
And what's the Speak Easy Circus live experience like? Like, how many of you are there on stage? Because it's such a big sound.
Yeah, so there's 5 of us. So we've got John and Fen, who are our horn sections, that's sax and trombone respectively, and then we've got Chats on the bass, Fraser on the drums, and I sing and play guitar. So it's a really it is a big sound. That's actually something that we really worked on a lot for Gros Michel, the most recent single, because we really wanted to try and capture more of that live like energy and that live sound. Previously we'd done a lot of recording often through necessity, just because the spaces that we were using, where we would do like each thing individually, like track everything individually, which is sort of like obviously a justifiable way to make music. But we felt that it wasn't quite like capturing that side of things. And so often people would say to us after shows like, oh my God, you sound better live than on like your recordings. So we really want to try and capture some of that. And so we recorded in a slightly different way, where we sort of tracked our like sort of rhythm section all together, and then it meant that we had this sort of like natural groove and like feel that comes from actually being able to like look across at somebody and play with them rather than just like playing along to a click or something like that in your ear. And I really think that helped capture the live feel, because it is sort of high energy. We like to go up and down in the sets, so we have like different gears where like you want to kind of have high sort of octane moments, and then you also want to be able to kind of just like chill out a little bit. Lots of our guys like John and Fen and Chats and stuff have come from sort of like jazz and R&B soul backgrounds, and so honestly you can just like play chord progression and just call one of them, set them off, and they'll just do like a wonderful solo, and then they'll be in and out, and they'll, you know, the sax and the trombone will be taking turns, and it's all a lot of fun, quite sort of relaxed and going up and down into different gears.
So is there an element of improvisation kind of when you're out live that you can feed off each other in that sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it was actually one of the big learning curves that I had, because I grew up playing sort of like rock music and sort of metal music and stuff. And it's something that I really sort of admired when I first started playing with musicians that came from this different background, was like they really are like they know their music so well that you can just like set them off and they're just going to play something amazing. So certainly I know like the horn section, they never play any of the solos the same ever. Like they've never the one that's on the like anything that's on the recording, that they've played that like once basically, and that's it, and it's never played the same. It's something that I personally like, I'm really trying to work on as well. So like some of the guitar solos are more set guitar solos, but there's also like I really like to push myself as well and keep up with these guys, and so like I'll often try and like do different guitar solos and like throw in different bits and pieces here and there. And then we also do like to have like basically actual sections where there's no sort of like set time period, and we're coming out of a song, so we kind of know where we are in terms of like the key and stuff, and then we just kind of like let it sort of meander a little bit, see where it's going, and then somebody chats will maybe like pick up a little bass line that he likes, and you'll play it, and then one of the horns will sort of pick it up, and you can kind of just start feeling it out, which is actually a really fun thing about doing like our own shows when we've got like a little more time. Like sometimes if you're playing like a quick 30-minute set, like you don't quite have that time, but when we're doing our own shows, we have a lot more freedom to kind of let them go off and do some cool stuff.
And it's interesting hearing you talk about the different influences. I think you can certainly hear a rock influence on your guitar. And I think it really feeds into the band as a whole, because it isn't just a funk band. There's rock, there's definitely jazz, there's all these things. Yeah. And what you're describing is a band that if you go and see them one night, it'll be different from maybe seeing them the previous night. And there's always a certain energy, I think, with bands like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, I mean, even before any of the other guys had joined, like the reason that I had called it like Speak Easy Circus is because it had this feel of like, I think it gave this sort of this image of like an eclectic like thing with like lots of different influences thrown on. And so it was almost like I knew that's what I was like aiming for before I even had the people to do it. and then these guys have come on, and has really helped like bring it together. Like obviously it started in my bedroom, but it's certainly like been developed and it's been made what it is today by the other influences from all these other people. Like it wouldn't be able to it wouldn't exist in its current form if it wasn't for those different influences, and we really want to sort of make them shine through. And I think that does come through on, like, if you were to listen to our previous music, like I think you would be hard pressed to find like one or two songs that sound the same. Like we've got some songs that are really rocky, some songs that are like really almost like singer-songwritery, like acoustic. Like we do really try and bring all these different influences out in different songs. Yeah.
And with that in mind, are there other bands around in Scotland today that you admire, or maybe some that you've played with that you would recommend?
So I never played with them, but I'm a big fan of Corto Alto at the moment. I think they're absolutely stunning. We actually we all went to see them actually when they played at SW3 recently. Absolutely amazing show. I think they're great. Tom Maguire and the Brassos are a great band. I mean, to be honest, there's loads of different groups that are out there. I mean, Joseph has been doing absolutely amazing as well. Saw him recently also, and it's great to see bands from Glasgow. I've actually never played with any of those bands, so if you guys want to have us come and play, we'd definitely be up for it. But yeah, I think it's great to see. I especially like seeing some jazz stuff come up, because again, like when I started playing with these guys, it was almost like a little bit of a baptism by fire in terms of like I was just suddenly getting like so many recommendations thrown at me, and like all these, like they're playing all these licks, and I'm like that's blowing my mind, and they're like, oh, this is just like a standard jazz lick from like such and such, and and so I was really just trying to like soak everything in and learn as much as I could and listen to as much as I could, and then to hear like a band like Corta Alto come out and sort of be pushing it forward and be getting like good recognition for what you could probably argue is like a relatively sort of still a niche sort of style of music, and to be getting that sort of recognition, I think it's really great. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's never been better for the kind of music you make and the people that you've mentioned. There just seems to be a real variety in it as well. Lots of different influences coming in, which you maybe didn't get before.
Exactly. Yeah.
And have you got any live dates coming up? Anything that you can let us know about?
So yeah, at the moment we've got the only show that we have just now. We're going to be doing a show at Whistle Binkies actually during the festival. So that actually might be even before this comes out. So the next one we're going to be playing at Soulfest, which is at the end of August. So that's going to be fun. And then we're going to be arranging a couple of shows towards the end of the year, because we're going to be bringing out some more music, but we've not got those sort of confirmed yet. We've got a new single coming out, and then we're going to have an EP coming out at the end of the year.
Well, I'm really looking forward to all of that. That's fantastic. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been great to have a chat about bananas, talk about them every chance I get now.
Exactly. Where else could you do that?
Exactly.
And this is Speak Easy Circus and Sewn Up.